Welcome everybody to another video with me, Paul, Addict Mentor. I spent 27 years in active heroin and crack cocaine addiction. I spent 22 years in prison, and today I am 4 years, 8 days clean, sober, non-active in my addictions, and trying to pass on all of the knowledge and information that I have gleaned from those 27 years. Uh, a lot of my addiction was completely unmanageable, and I spent a lot of that time on my own, in my own bubble. And what I want to talk to you about today is something that really, really resonates with me, and that is the conversation about whether people should get into relationships whilst trying to get into recovery. Now, my belief is you can start a relationship in early recovery, and as long as you've got someone who supports you, someone who wants to do exactly what you were doing, wants to see you progress, and someone who doesn't facilitate your using. Uh, However, not all people can get into relationships, and not all recovery systems believe that you should get into a relationship in early recovery. I know it's controversial, but I was in a relationship whilst trying to get find my recovery, and it worked for me. If you are going to get into a relationship in recovery, however, these are some of the things that I would suggest. You have to be completely and utterly honest with your partner from the very, very beginning. There's no point getting into a relationship with someone and you are in recovery and you're having to maybe attend NAAACA meetings, or you're seeing a counselor, or you're going to your drug treatment program, or you're going to Turning Point, CGL, whatever it is. There is no point in trying to hide all of that stuff, because that's going to create the first step on the lie ladder. If you don't know what the lie ladder is, it starts in one little bit and it gets to another, and each lie you get higher and higher up before you've got a whole bloody ladder, and you don't know how you're gonna own up, face up to the things that you've lied about because you didn't want to admit that you've got an addiction problem and you're trying to recover. Avoid codependent relationships, as few of these last. Now, I am going to be open and honest straight away. My brother-in-law, Ashley, and his partner, Leanne, have smashed it, right? They used together, they went to prison, they come out, they relapsed, lapsed, they sorted their life out, and guess what? They are now living their best lives, clean, sober, non-active in their addiction. So big shout out to Leon and Ashley. Big up the both of you, because wow, you're smashing it. However, as you know, there's always going to be a however with me. It's very difficult to find your recovery if you're in a codependent relationship, which basically is you are both drug dependent and you're both trying to find your recovery, because not any two people recover the same way. You may be a little bit advanced and the other person's behind you and they're still using every day, where you've actually managed not to do that. By seeing them, that causes you the drama, and guess what? You end up using because you go back, and it's that cycle. It's the reverse cycle, and it's horrible. I've seen it happen so many times. So my advice would be, if you're in a relationship like that, maybe, I'm not saying finish with them, but I'm saying maybe it's time to go your separate ways, get yourself sorted and get back together. But I do know, like I said, it does work. So there are exceptions to the rule, but the main rule is that a very few last. Don't put your relationship before your recovery. Now, this happens a lot. Many people, they end up getting into a relationship, and the things that they know they need to be doing on a daily, they forget to do. They think, well, I'm okay now. I'm well now. I don't need to worry about not doing this or doing that, not attending this meeting or not going to this counselling session, not going to this, not booking this one-to-one session with Paul Addict Mentor, which you can do through pauladdictmentor.com, because relationships are important, but your recovery is your life. And that's the thing. Once you have got an active addiction and you know one slip is going to send you straight back there, your recovery is number one. There is nothing more important than that recovery, because without it, no relationship's going to last. Without it, no time in the community is going to last. Without it, you're going to be doing prison. Without it, you're going to be finding yourself homeless. Without your recovery, your life is completely unmanageable and you are powerless to do anything about it. So remember, relationships are great. Oh yeah, relationships are great. I know I've got a long-term partner, but it's also important to remember that your recovery has to come first, has to be priority number one. And sometimes that's a hard thing to accept, because that may mean that your partner doesn't view it the same way. And that may mean that that relationship's not suitable to you. Because when those sort of things start happening, and you're in a relationship where your partner doesn't support that, you're going to end up relapsing and you're going to end up maybe being in a worse situation. So just be aware of that. Avoid starting a family until you are safe in your recovery. And I mean this, people, please, because children, babies are hard work. It is a graft. Now, I wish I had someone telling me, Paul, don't have any kids until you find your full recovery, because it would have saved me so much stress. But I'm telling you, and it's important because babies are hard work. They cost a lot of money. It takes a lot of emotion, a lot of time out of your days and nights. So everyone wants a family, especially if you've come from a disrupted childhood like I have, and you just want to build that perfect family unit. I fully understand that. But whilst you're in early recovery, I would avoid this at all costs. You know, things happen, accidents happen, and sometimes you have to go with the flow and it can work out perfectly. But we're being responsible, we're being adult, and we're being people who want to have long-term recovery. So these are the things that I would suggest. In a relationship, give each other time and space for things to work properly. You know, I'm very lucky. I get to do quite a lot of things in the community. I get invited to a lot of events now, and that gives me time away from my family. It gives me time away from my partner. It's not that I don't like spending time with them. It just gives me time for myself, and it gives my partner time for herself. She goes out with her friends. I go out with my friends. And that's how it's working, and it's working really well. So make sure you give yourselves time, because emotion and relationships are very, very complex, but we can do it. And remember this is the last but most important one of all. Before you get into a relationship, you have to love yourself before you can love another. And that is me, Paul Addict Mentor. Peace. love, and unity.